At least 5 people have been injured after a suicide attack in Tunisia's capital, Tunis, near the U.S. Embassy. According to officials, the suicide bombers were targeting a security patrol in the area.
Security forces cordoned off the area around the U.S. Embassy in Tunisia after at least one militant on a motorbike blew himself up, wounding police officers in the country's most serious apparent attack since last year. The attack took place in the business district of the Lac, an area in the east of Tunis, the capital that is home to several embassies and offices of international institutions. The attacker appeared to have targeted a police car, which was parked near the embassy and was damaged in the explosion. State television and a private local radio station reported that 2 militants had carried out the attack and were killed, and the 5 policemen were injured. Sirens could be heard on the major highway linking the Lac district, where the embassy is located, with Tunis and suburbs in the north. Last year, Islamic State said it was behind 3 militant blasts in the capital, including one near the French embassy that killed a policeman and another that wounded 5 people during a security operation to detain a suspect. Tunisia's critical tourism sector is highly vulnerable to militant incidents and was devastated after 2 major attacks in 2015, which killed scores of visitors at a beach resort and a popular museum.
Now, Zambia's President Edgar Lungu has blamed some church officials and traditional leaders for a recent spate of mob attacks that have left at least 50 people dead. The lynchings have targeted people accused of involvement in a series of mysterious assaults with chemical spray that have harmed well over 1,000 Zambians since December and caused public panic. The spray has left children and adults unconscious. There's speculation the assailants seek to use the victims' blood for witchcraft. The attacks were initially confined to the mineral-rich Copperbelt province, but have since spread to the capital, Lusaka. Hundreds have been arrested in connection with the vigilante revenge attack. Our coverage of the coronavirus outbreak today begins in Cameroon, where the Health Ministry has confirmed its first case, becoming the 4th country in sub-Saharan Africa to do so. The Health Ministry says the 58-year-old French man who arrived in the capital on February 24 has been quarantined in the city's central hospital. Since the coronavirus outbreak began in the central Chinese city of Wuhan in December, it has infected more than 90,000 people worldwide and killed more than 3,000, mostly in China. Meanwhile, Egypt's health ministry has announced 12 more cases of people carrying the coronavirus in the country. There were passengers on a cruise on the River Nile heading to the southern city of Aswan from Luxor. Egypt was the first country in Africa to report cases of the coronavirus. It had previously confirmed 3 cases, with 1 fully recovered after treatment. Elsewhere on the continent, Nigeria, South Africa, Senegal, Algeria, Tunisia and Morocco have all confirmed cases of the virus. Following South Africa's confirmation of its first case on Thursday, the country's health minister says tracer teams are now active tracking down others he may have had contact with. He adds that direct contacts such as family have been placed into isolation, and a broader group of contacts are also being checked for symptoms such as fever. The 38-year-old infected man had arrived in South Africa 2 days before on March 1st. The health minister said both he and the doctor that looked after him have gone into isolation. The man apparently flew into OR Tambo, then flew from Johannesburg to Durban on the same day. As of Thursday night, officials were contacting those who were seated near him on both planes. Well, here in Nigeria, the health minister has confirmed that out of the 3 new suspected cases of COVID-19 in the country, 2 have tested negative, while 1 result is pending. He gave this information at a briefing in Abuja today, where he restated that there is only 1 confirmed case, which is the index case, who is stable. This briefing is the 4th in the series of updates on the virus. According to the minister, 5 labs are currently equipped to test test for COVID-19, and there is no reason to shut down schools or other public places at the moment.
As at 4th of March 2020, there have been 93,090 confirmed cases globally, and 88.4 of these have been in China. There have been 3,198 deaths. While the outbreak in Wuhan and generally in China seems to be reducing, the case numbers seem to be increasing outside China. Over 90% of the cases reported in the last 24 hours were reported outside China. The protocol for this treatment has been shared with us through the Chinese embassy. We also continue to closely compare Nigeria's infection prevention and control measures with what obtains in other countries, and I can confirm to you that our standing in Nigeria is among the best. We have no reason to shut down schools or any places of worship in Nigeria at the moment. We have 5 laboratories in Nigeria at the moment with capacity for in-country testing. We have enough reagents at the moment to attend to the needs we can imagine. And we are poised to secure more reagents as the need arises. Healthcare workers are also regularly sensitized to continue to have a high index of suspicion for the COVID-19 virus disease. Citizens are advised to discourage spread of misinformation that causes fear and panic.
To other stories now. France has granted permission to extradite Francois Compaoré, the brother of former president of Burkina Faso, Blaise Compaoré, who is wanted at home over the murder of a journalist in 1998. Francois Compaoré is accused of involvement in the 1998 killing of Norbert Zongo, who was investigating the death of Mr. Compaoré's driver and the charred remains of 3 other people. His murder sparked mass protest in Burkina Faso at the time. Mr. Compaoré French lawyers had argued against his extradition because he could face the death penalty if convicted back home, a sentence that does not exist in France. Now, the UN Special Representative for South Sudan, David Scherer, has attributed the progress in the country to the political willingness of President Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar, who he says put the interests of their country first. Addressing the Security Council, he highlighted the positive developments that have moved the country further along the road to sustainable peace following the formation of a unity government by both leaders last month. However, he notes that the new government faces daunting challenges on day one that will test its unity, especially the need to move on the transitional security arrangement where implementation is dangerously lagging.
But the progress is attributable to the political willingness of 2 men who put the interests of their country first, President Kiir to make critical concessions and Dr. Riek Machar to agree to return to the capital that he left during fighting in 2016. We often speak of courage in war and battle, but peace also requires courage. The first joint statement from the new presidency, it's the president and the vice presidents together, urged people from POC sites, protection sites, and neighbouring countries to return home. Their collective message is significant and is timely, coming ahead of the rainy season and also the planting season. The message does, of course, put the onus on the new government to ensure that areas of return are safe for those who are coming back.
This government is going to be a new government, and I think the international community should be in a position to give them a leeway so that they can move the people of South Sudan forward. But if you tied them down with the sanctions, I'm afraid their progress would be slowed. But the decision is yours. Our appeal to peace-loving members of the international community is simply this. If you stood with the people of South Sudan during the difficult last 6 years, this is the most opportune time to double or triple your care and support for the people of South Sudan for the sake of lasting peace and unity in South Sudan.
Meanwhile, the United Nations mission in South Sudan, in partnership with non-governmental organizations, Non-Violence Peace Force, organized a workshop for about 80 women representatives on conflict mitigation and human rights. The participants shared experiences on past conflict resolution attempts and aim to become peace ambassadors in their communities.
Some internally displaced people who fled their conflict-ridden neighboring villages in 2016 are now living in the Rememze camp, surrounding a church in western Equatoria in South Sudan. Some women representatives have boosted their conflict mitigation skills and their knowledge of human rights following a 2-day workshop. The training, organized jointly by the United Nations mission in South Sudan and a non-governmental organization called Non-Violence Peace Force, was held for women drawn from the most conflict-ridden areas.
We learn a lot about conflict, how to manage, and what is the consequence coming from the conflict which is affecting the community.
Mary Papai, a resident of Rememze camp for internally displaced people, says she wants to pass on her knowledge to other women in her community.
What I would do after this training is that the people who I will meet, who are engaged in conflict, I will try to solve their problem with the skills that I have acquired during this 2-day workshop.
South Sudan is reeling from 5 years of conflict that killed an estimated 400,000 people and trying to hold the fragile unity government formed just last month between the president and the former rebel leader. As many wish for sustainable peace in the world's youngest nation, the United Nations mission believes that it is important to empower women to promote peaceful coexistence.
We thought and we agreed with the women in this area that they need necessary skills and tools that can help them to contribute to the peaceful coexistence in this area and build strong relations among them that can mitigate further conflict in this area.
At the workshop, the right to 35% political representation for women, as stipulated in the revitalized peace agreement, was also a hot topic.
Has launched a campaign to raise funds for the construction of a giant dam on the River Nile, the source of significant regional tension. People have been asked to use their mobile phones to send money for the $5 billion project. The government recently refused to sign a U.S.-mediated deal with Egypt and Sudan over the dam. The authorities seem to be trying to tap into public anger over what is seen as U.S. pressure on Ethiopia to sign the deal. Egypt and Sudan are worried the dam will deprive them of water. The Mo Ibrahim Foundation has announced that for a second year running, it has not found a suitable winner for its annual Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Development Leadership. The award, launched in 2006, recognizes former African leaders who have shown outstanding governance of their country, brought peace, stability and prosperity to their people. The winner receives a $5 million cash award paid over 10 years and $200,000 annually for life thereafter. Sudanese-British billionaire Mo Ibrahim, chairman of the foundation, said the continent was facing a lot of challenges, but he was optimistic they would be a winner soon. The first winner was Mozambique's former president, Joaquim Chissano, in 2007.